All right. So Steph Douglas owns 34 doors across 19 properties. That number might be higher now. She co-owns an education-based brokerage, Open House Austin, and she's a racket sport athlete. Steph Douglas, welcome to the show.
Thank you. What an intro. I love that.
Well, so you lead a really tight team at your brokerage, Open House Austin. You guys do so much, just so many cool, unique touches that other teams don't do, like those cute closing sign pictures as an example. But there's just so much of that, just little, unique, amazing things. First off, like, what is your process to come up with those ideas? Like, how do you guys come up with the idea?
Yeah, so I started my career in education. I was a teacher. I taught fourth grade math, and I brought a lot of what made me a good teacher into real estate. And so I think that that background mixed with some like unique marketing perspective is out how we come up with anything that we do at open house. Um, I am a millennial, and I think we were kind of on this new wave of like, we don't want to be sold to, we don't want to be, cold called, we don't want to be pushed into anything. We're kind of allergic to that. And so going on that kind of vein, and then also the education standpoint, it's like, okay, we're going to do, instead of pushing people, we're going to pull them in and we're going to make them feel like this is a special process because it is. And this is a huge deal for people. And so trying to figure out how to make people feel really, yeah, like this is a unique thing. This is a unique team, like you said. And then we're very collaborative. We like really take into consideration what our agents are saying, what they're hearing from their clients. So yeah, a combination of a lot of things.
Okay, so it sounds like the place that you're coming from is one that it's like everybody knows that getting hard sold does not feel good. We have so much information due to the internet. People aren't going to get like tricked. Like no one's going to, you know, one call close you on a house. It's not going to be, you're not going to like emotionally buy that. You might emotionally pick the house, but there's a logical decision process in there. So you guys are trying to find something that does feel good, an approach that does feel good, and an intention maybe that feels better to home buyers and maybe sellers too.
Exactly. That,
So
yeah. Yeah.
go ahead. Go yeah.
Well, that like the connection that they have with our brand before they even talk to us is really important. And like you said, having people hard sold, it just doesn't work for our generation. And when we first started, we were told to target luxury and, established buyers and sellers. And we figured out that no one was talking to first-time buyers. No one was talking to buyers that didn't have 100K in the bank. And so that's kind of where we decided to focus. And I think people appreciate it and they really feel moved by our mission.
So I love the intention and where you guys are coming from. In terms of each one of these like small little things, small little unique details that you guys have implemented, is there any exercise that you guys use or brainstorm sessions or creativity sessions where you're coming up with each one of these ideas?
So we have, like you said, really tight-knit team. We have 8 agents right now. And so everybody's voice is heard. And we have every year, actually, we just had our quarter one wrap up. It was just like a day long offsite. But we have a 3-day retreat every year at the end of the year to like what worked, what didn't work, what is going to set us apart. And then we didn't do this last year, but we're going to every quarter say, okay, after this quarter, what worked, what didn't work, what else do we want to implement that maybe isn't too high of a lift, but like makes a big impact, or if it is a large lift, like what are we going to use to measure that? And so it is like a qualitative thing, but also we try to tie it back to the quantifiable, like is this really moving the needle? And yeah, so those retreats are really important. It kind of gets people like their juices flowing, we have nice food and we bring in, this year we had a hibachi come to the Airbnb, and it's just like this is a place where we can really get real and figure out, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing. We do feel like we're making a difference, and that just makes people really creative. So like, what ideas do we have? What can we bring to the table? And everyone's ideas are considered.
That's amazing. So did you just have one, your quarterly
Yeah, we
session
just
like
had our first quarterly wrap up, and it's just like in general, setting goals. I'm a big goal setter. But the problem with setting goals over the whole year is that like you're not really checking in on them until the end of the year and you're figuring out whether you reach them or not. So we figured out that like really, really honing in on, okay, after the last quarter, do we need to adjust our yearly goal? Do we need to add something in? Are we on track? Are we not on track? And what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? More often than not, quarterly seemed like a good number. I'll let you know at the end of the year.
So you said that y'all talk about what's working, what's not. That's perfect. That was kind of the context for this conversation. What did you guys come up with? What's working, what's not for
Yeah.
Q1 2025 in
Yeah,
real
so
estate?
we in Q1 2025 was extremely slow sales wise. And luckily, we still have like a pretty steady stream of leads. They're coming through. Where all of our agents are still working, which is not true for every agent, as you know. It's been a really challenging market, but we have a bunch of leads coming through. So it's been really interesting. Like the sales were slow, and it's, we're in a business that lags. So like when you see the leads come through, you're not going to see that income or that production until the next quarter or the quarter after. And so we really looked at, okay, Q4 of 2024, what did we do wrong? And then what did we do right in Q1 of 2025? And the biggest thing that we have, like, this is 101 real estate sales, but like personalized agent follow up and like really supporting the agents in like, okay, this is a lead, but it's also a person. What are they interested in? How do we figure that out? And then how do we reach out and make them feel really a part of our community? Because that is one of our biggest values. So that's what we're focusing on this quarter is, yes, we can do our email marketing. We can set up drips for, warm leads that used to be hot, and we can really dial that in. But the real thing that moves the needle is personalized agent follow up. And so, how do you create a system for that? So that's what we're working on now.
So we talked about all those little things that make you guys unique and really makes you and stand out to me as a loan officer. How do you guys take all those ideas that you come up with and then make sure they get implemented? Because years after I started tracking you guys in your progress, you're still doing those things. Like every realtor is still doing them all. Like I'm still seeing that houses before spouses
Yeah.
signs in front of a house with the keys. Like I'm still seeing I just bought my first house signs years after I first learned about your team. So how do you make sure this stuff's getting implemented on every purchase, on every sale?
Yeah. Systems. And like, this is something that I am not, I'm more of a higher level, like, I'm I mean, for lack of a better word, like the vision part of it is more of my style. And so I have to hire people who are extremely good at the systems. And we have a chief of staff who is just like incredible at holding people accountable. If this system is not working, for example, we have a system where a buyer will book a consultation call. It's like extremely intricate system of like, okay, they book it, and then what happens after they book it? They get a follow-up text, they get a reminder text, they have the call, and then the agent submits the buyer consultation call form so that we have that data. And so it's just like, that's just a small example, but we have those systems for every single process. And that's true for the photos. Here's the signs. If you need new signs, you need to submit this form. And it's just like very well run on the back end. And I think that that's for brokerages in general, they're really letting their agents run their own business, which is great. But I think for our brokerage, we have a lot of support on the back end, and it kind of sets us apart and makes us more cohesive. We have the same things that happen for each buyer because we are like a cohesive team as opposed to each agent being their very own business.
Right. Okay. So from a visionary perspective, what are the main ideas or like the main areas that you focus on in real estate leadership?
My style is very much like mentorship and like lead by example. I think that my approach as an agent, though I don't, as the broker, I don't work with leads, so I am fully in support of my agents. That's not very common. But when I was an agent, the the thing that I relied on the most was relationships, and so that's what I'm focusing on with my agents. I meet with them every other week, every single one of them. We go through every single one of their goals, professional, obviously, and then I'm also available to them to hold them accountable for their personal goals. So, whatever they choose to bring to me, I will check in with them every other week. And that's a lot of times it's like their own real estate portfolios because that's kind of my passion is like empowering people to change their life through purchasing real estate. So I do that with my agents and I just the relationships and the morale on our team is like unmatched. There's nothing better. We're not family because that's toxic, but we are very like we like each other. We can run things by each other really well. We can have courageous conversations because there's that strong foundation of relationship.
Okay. So, all right. So if you could go back and talk to yourself on the first week of starting as a realtor, or maybe even starting open house, what would today Steph Douglas say to week one, Steph?
That's a great question. Um, First of all, I would say sell one of your houses or two during the pandemic. Just because that would have been nice. The values
Got
have gone
one,
down.
two at the top. Got it.
But no, I think I was really, really excited to start real estate, and I was also teaching at the same time. Um, I burnt myself out on the actual job of being a real estate agent, and so I quit very quickly wanted to like find support. And I think it went from 0 to 100 on my transactions, and I like having a transaction coordinator is like the most like spending money on support so that you don't burn out is so important. And so once I burnt out, I was like, okay, I'm going to build something where these agents can actually have a long career in real estate and not feel like they're just burning the wick at both ends. So I definitely think that like I in starting open house in the short term, I took a pay cut and I was like, this is worth it to me because I am so burnt out and I don't think I have like the legs to continue in this capacity. But if I had more support, I probably would have continued, taking on clients. Now I'm so happy that I did what I did, but I think to avoid burnout, you have to enlist the help and hire support.
Okay, so that's kind of like in retrospect, if we look into the future, maybe just the near future, have there been any areas of the business like real estate or real estate investing, real estate in general, areas of the business that have been attractive to you, new areas of the business that you see yourself moving towards?
So we as open house we started in 2019, and I started buying houses in 2013. So as you know, that's been a full bull market until very recently, and this whole bear market or whatever we want to call it right now, in Austin specifically, because I know this isn't happening everywhere, has been it's just such a test and such a challenge, but it's like nice and you can be proud of being able to weather this storm. I do think that like this short-term rental, mid-term rental, long-term rental games are changing so much. And so I like a long-term steady investment. I've always been buy and hold, but I did have some short-term rentals. So I am moving a lot of my short terms into long-term. And that's somewhat of a pivot. I I like the management side of the business for long term. And so we're considering offering that just because we have a lot of clients who buy their first house and then want to buy their second house, but they don't want to sell because they've listened to what we've said and like buy and hold. And I just love the idea that we're helping people grow their portfolios, but then they also need long-term rental management, which is something that we have 100% the skill to do because we do it ourselves. We have all of the vendor contacts. We have a huge contractor list. So yeah, that's a little bit interesting to me right now.
I feel like management is such a high integrity thing to do for people who evangelize real estate investing or buying real estate as like a good thing for themselves financially. Because then when the person calls and asks to sell, they just encourage them to sell it when it's like, well, initially we were talking about this as such a good investment. Isn't it still one? Like, wouldn't we want to keep this? So I think that considering management is a high integrity thing to do. I cross my mind all the time. I'm like, why don't more people do this? But that's really interesting. Well, let me keep me updated on how that stuff's going. I think y'all would be the only team I know doing that too. So
Yeah.
that
Yes.
that seems about right for you guys. Okay, so you're a great athlete. I've seen some pickleball content. What do you love most about just being active and sport in general?
Man, sports have been such a big part of my life, my career, in my opinion. I played sports, every sport you could think of growing up, and just like the act of having to do something you don't want to do for the greater good or for the good of the team is like a huge part of why I am who I am. Morale is so big. Like I've been part of teams where we are not individually the best, but together we win because of the chemistry, because of the the court chem or the field chemistry. And I just think that is so inspiring. And that is why there's so many sports movies and like inspirational, underdog. And I feel like that is completely embodied in my career. And I have since I tore my Achilles tendon playing soccer in 2021 and found pickleball shortly after that, and I am like heavily obsessed. I, it's like a drug addiction. I've never been addicted to drugs, but I can only imagine this is what it feels like. And just like having that outlet as a very competitive person, like that competition comes out in my daily life if I don't have somewhere else to take it out. So yeah, it's been so huge for me. And recently having gone through kind of like a health renaissance, it is such a big part of my life.
And
I
I've been
assume it's
waiting
a big part of yours as well.
big time, and I've been waiting for
Yeah.
somebody to say it like that, the addiction component or like to speak to how it makes you feel. Like the bottom line is it just makes you feel amazing. You want to feel like that more
Yes.
often. And
Yeah.
ideally, I'd feel like this a couple times a day,
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
I'm so glad that you went there. How did you find it originally?
So I played tennis growing up, and getting back into tennis was interesting to me. I started playing, and it's just tennis is big. There's a lot of space, like actually on the court, and then you're far away from who you're playing with. You have to be playing with exactly your level, your skill level, or else it's not fun. And pickleball is using the same skills, but you are so close together. You're chatting with your partner, you're chatting with the other team. The community is incredible. So just like on that same vein of like our company is so focused on community within the team, with our buyers, with our sellers, and it's just like pickleball is that on like a cellular level because you are playing sport. And so yeah, I've met hundreds of people in the past 2 years, whereas I would never have met them had I just been playing tennis or like,
Yeah,
it's like it's something that lends itself because you are always trying to put a group of four people together. Like
yeah,
I'm literally meeting a new person every other day.
yeah. It's
So
amazing.
that's He's so amazing. It's also really amazing for real estate and networking. And like these people that I'm playing with, they get to know me. They know that I'm a trustworthy person. They know that I'm a competitive person and a high functioning person, so they're going to reach out to me when they're ready to buy or sell.
Amazing. Thanks. How did you meet Christina Medeiros originally?
Yes, we met early in I think 2016. And she found me on Instagram. So it's kind of a online love story. And she was interested in buying houses, fixing houses up. And there were not very many other women who were interested in that. I had already bought two houses when I met her. I was in the middle of renovating one of them. And so we met up at Kinda Tropical on the east side and we chatted for like 4 hours. We always said it was the most successful first date we've ever had. She was already licensed as a realtor, so was I. And so we were like, how can we work together? And it was a couple years until we like fully joined forces, but like it kind of made sense and what we were saying to people on the internet we didn't know was gonna have so much gravity with people, but like really gained traction. We opened in 2019, and yeah, we got a lot of attention for doing what other people weren't doing. Like there's just no education around buying houses, renovating houses, and especially coming from, women that look like your average, there's a lot of things like bigger pockets coming towards like older men who are just like, I have a bunch of hotels. It's like, well, we want to do this differently. It's like we want to do this on like a smaller scale. It doesn't have to be your whole thing, but it can be a huge part of your net worth or like your wealth building journey.
So when I do a little research for these, and that's when it all kind of came together for me about your story. The about section of your podcast with Christina, I saw your social handles, like for social media, and your website URL, and it says it has education in the title of those, like something like open house education or something like that, and I was like, that's it. So it clicked for me right there. I was like, at that point, I already knew you were a fourth grade teacher. And I know that you lead a real estate brokerage, and that's it. So, like, it had to be you that creates this brokerage that is a home for first-time home buyers to get education and beyond with real estate. So that's kind of what had it all to come together for me, and it's
Yeah.
a cool picture. So I've always asked myself, if everyone knows that home buyers need education, why is Steph and her team the only team in Austin doing that? So, I mean, like, obviously you're an educator, so you educate, and that's why it had to be you. But like, why do you think other teams haven't done this?
It's a good question. I do think that when you first start in real estate, the main message is get to the $1 million plus listings and, try to present yourself as this like as achieving more than you actually have. Drive a nice car, wear nice clothes, have your hair done nice. And that is not my that is not who I am. And so like approaching it in that way where I'm not focused on like appearing to be more successful than I actually am. I really am focused on making sure people have this information. It has changed my life. I mean, I grew up without any money. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a mechanic, and really getting into this information and having access to this because I sought it out has completely changed my financial trajectory. And as a teacher, just saying like, okay, this information has to be more accessible and like drilling down into that mission. I don't think other people are doing that. I also don't think that other teams have like experienced as much um, personal real estate success, like personal, like they haven't tried to buy real estate themselves. And so having like our team really walks the walk. And so once we have experienced it ourselves and actually bought the houses and done the renovations and worked with the contractors, it is so much easier to actually educate on those things once you've done them yourself. So that I think that it really helps us. It's like we're showing people what we are doing and then they're coming seeking us out and saying, "Will you teach me?" as
Yeah,
opposed to just like using it as a marketing ploy.
100%. Yeah. Um, Very cool. Okay. So, do you have any particularly difficult or emotional real estate stories, or maybe just in leading your team there, or maybe like fulfilling stories, something like that?
I mean, we have so many incredible stories. every
I know there's
every
some
time.
bad ones. Like everybody has bad ones too, but we don't have to
Yeah.
go there unless it just pops to mind.
I mean, I do have this thing that's annoying to my friends where nothing is a failure. It's always just like you either win or you learn. And those are the only two options. And so I always like these questions because it makes me really think about um, the hard parts. But I do think that people are paralyzed by like the analysis part of it and like trying to like they're really really nervous about buying a house or renovating a house and it stops them from actually doing it. And so I've definitely jumped into projects where it's like, oh, I should not have done that. Or like this is like I'm gonna find my way out of this, but like this was way too much more than I can chew. And my third house that I bought I was still teaching. I was doing real estate too, and I bought this house in the Holly neighborhood on the east side, is just like the dream. It was on a postage stamp of a lot, and I was like, I'll just live here while I'm renovating it, and that'll be totally fine. We move in, it's like there's no framing from the inside, so the house had to be framed from the inside out. Like it should have just been torn down. And when you're 26, having bought a house and they tell you that there's no framing and that like they don't know how it's still standing up, that feels like it should have been a failure. And it was really scary. And I had, I at the time I think I had $30,000 in cash, and to me that was like so much money. And it was, it ended up being like a $90,000 renovation, and I just like had to make it work, figure it out. I saved every penny I had. I took out loans, and now that house is a rental property and it cash flows like $1,400 a month. So we figured it out. It was like I was doing it all by myself. I had to like navigate these contractors as a 26-year-old woman. Um, and there were very hard times. In fact, I was like, I'm just gonna live here while it's happening. And like I said, and I got bed bugs because the walls were open. It was just like it was a mess. But I'm so happy that I did it. It was such like a valuable learning, and it was why I was able to do it again. Like that hard experience enabled me to take on other projects and like obviously do it a lot smarter the next time. So, does that answer your question?
That's perfect. Thank you. So, so I know that you trust if a first-time home buyer works with your team that they're going to accomplish their goal of buying a house and they're going to have a great experience. So, and what I mean by that is that you're serving them actually by making sure that they work with your team instead of someone else or another team with lower service standards.
Yes.
So, in that realm, what is working and what is not working in the world of lead generation specifically?
Oh, that's a good question. So we actually just had a meeting with Zillow. We all know Zillow, and they were pitching us on their services as far as buying leads goes. And it was actually it just happened today at our meeting, and I brought it to the team, just saying like, okay, this is an option. We could buy leads from Zillow, and what ended up happening was this conversation about the type of people that we want to work with, and like our lead generation that is happening now, which is like I said, like more of a pull. Like we are over here doing our thing. We're doing it really well. We have good design. We have good videos about what we're doing and like good social media. We're here. And when we talked about Zillow, it was kind of like those buyers are somewhat flippant. Like they're not intentional about who they're wanting to work with. They're not even that they're not serious about buying, but it's just like they potentially don't really care about the relationship because they're just going to some random person on Zillow. And so when we think about lead gen at open house, it's like yes, we want leads. We want all the leads, but we also want the type of person that we want to work with. And so attracting that person, which is through a lot of storytelling, a lot of like this is a lot of expertise on like loan products, or we have this first time buyer program or whatever it is, that like bringing attention to those things is building trust and making sure that people are seeing us as the experts in this specific niche, and then them feeling like I really want to work with this team because I like what they're standing for. I like their mission. And so that is like most of our leads find us through Instagram. And obviously, a huge part of our business is referral based. But our people are on Instagram. They're doing their research. They're interested in working with people that they trust and who have integrity, like you said. So yeah, we're like very heavily on Instagram, breaking into YouTube, but like authentic grassroots marketing as opposed to like just buying leads.
Got it. So have you all tried anything that does match your culture and your strategy, but just didn't work? So
We've,
like Zillow is kind of like off the mark for
yeah,
y'all. We know those
right.
close at the convert at 3% or so. There's a lot of just n- people not interested in education, not interested in anything really. They filled out a web form that took them a fraction of a second, and they're like on to Amazon to buy
Yeah,
I don't know what. But
exactly.
I mean, so that's off the mark. But have you tried anything that is online for your culture, but that didn't work? It's maybe
Yeah,
something as a reminder of what to stay away from.
yeah. So we like Instagram because it can be so local. What were, we were like very hopeful about TikTok, and we actually built a pretty large following from our, from TikTok and like talking about buying with friends and houses before spouses, like that type of thing really does well on TikTok. And so we had, I think we had 125,000 followers, something like that.
Wow.
And we were not getting leads from TikTok. Like everybody who was coming in through Instagram, through even Facebook in some regard. And so really interesting to know that we could have such a base. And I think it's because TikTok is so national and we are such a hyper local Austin brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of a miss. We definitely got more press opportunities. We've been in the New York Times twice. We've been featured on Good Morning America, and most of those opportunities were from TikTok. But even those things didn't really move the needle because it is so national. So we're like really honing in on Austin specific things.
Yeah.
One of our most recent like our pushes is pickleball because people are so interested in pickleball and I'm
Yeah.
obsessed.
Yeah.
And so we've been
That's
we've been
perfect.
hosting pickleball events and those are really fun and they are really local and yeah, bonding because we're sweating on the court. So yeah, things work, some things don't.
Yeah. A pickleball event seems like there could be nothing more on track for
Yeah.
y'all.
Exactly.
So that's amazing. I like what you said earlier about like, you've met 100 people that you wouldn't have met with outside pickleball, and I'm thinking about how the pickleball court is just set up different. First off, there's three other people on the court. Second, you're standing way closer. You know what I mean? And you're also slightly less out of breath. I know that you guys still get a workout. Um, so anyway,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that's a really good point. It kind of makes me wish I was playing more. All right,
It-
so new realtors in Austin. I think that um, pandemic era real estate attracted a lot of new people and made it a cool job for younger people to do. In Austin specifically, what's your advice for new realtors?
oh man, it really going to everything and taking up a sport like pickleball or like whatever can get you in front of the most people. I also think and when I was starting I was going to networking events and like something where I can talk to a bunch of people and tell them what I do. I do think that walking the walk is important, so like showing people what you're doing on or showing what you're doing on your social media, making sure people are super aware of who you are and what you're doing, and like starting with your sphere of influence. When I first started posting on Instagram, I was like, no one's gonna care about this. I remember having that thought, like, this is so silly, but it's fun. It's kind of creative. I did it anyway. I had 200 followers, and not like I have a crazy amount now. I think I'm like at 6,500 or something, but still, people were interested, and people were Like, like I think about real estate, I think about Steph because she's out there, she's at her house, she's knocking walls down. She probably knows what to do. And so they would reach out, and that's when I said, I can help you. So I think that like making sure that you're in front of people and whether it be online or in person.
Okay. All right. So now, yeah, there's a lot of content that you share with first-time home buyers, and because I've been to your first-time home buyer course,
Yeah.
it's over the course of an hour or two. If you could distill your advice to first-time home buyers in Austin into an answer to this question, what's your advice for first-time home buyers in Austin?
So that's tough. Okay. So I think it's easy for first time buyers to get nervous from what people are saying about the market on like a large scale. So you can hear people say it's a terrible time to buy. And you hear that a lot. I hear it online. I hear people saying that. And it's so easy to say, yeah, you're right. It is a bad time to buy. And it's easy because it's hard. And so it's putting that off is more comfortable for your brain. And so I think as a first time buyer, you will be surprised at what you can accomplish if you look into it, if you know your options. And that's what we're all about. We don't want to force people into anything. We want people to know what their options are. You do not have to put 20% down. You can, but you do not have to. Saving up at $80,000 is really challenging, and getting in, starting to grow equity, it could be the right move, but you don't know because you haven't looked into it. So I think getting even if it's not the right time for you specifically right now, it is worth knowing because then you can know exactly what next steps you have. I mean, you know this better than anyone as a lender. Like you could probably talk to someone and say, okay, you need to do this, this, and this with your credit, and then you're going to be ready to buy in 6 months. That knowledge is so, so important. And so having the venue, so that's why we like to give people the space in those workshops to ask their questions because so often we say over and over you don't need 20% down, and inevitably people come in and they say, well, I thought you needed 20% down. So yeah, knowledge is power.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, what we tell people, like with our home purchase preparation program, what they end up with is just certainty. It's like everybody knows, like you probably shouldn't be in a bunch of credit card debt. Everyone knows that you should make as much money as possible. Everyone knows you should save some money, but nobody knows how much to save, what to pay their credit card balance to, or what credit
Right.
score they. So it's
Right.
like because there's a little bit of uncertainty, just like a little bit of fog, just makes them give up on the project or push it or delay it or procrastinate or do whatever
Yes.
they're doing, whatever their way
Yes.
is to not, do a hard thing. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's
So now
so easy. It's so easy when people are telling you it's a bad time too. You're justified.
it's way easier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bad,
Yeah.
bad time. No need
Yeah.
to no need to sweat now.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So back in our time machine, if 80-year-old Steph could come back and talk to Steph today, what advice do you think she would give?
Ooh, I wish I knew that. Um,
You
I
probably do.
it's in me. Um, I think I think the focus on community is is like needs to be the guiding light. And that because I do have this competitive streak in me and I want to be the best. It is so easy to say, okay, I should just like add a bunch of agents. I should just hire people. We have people reaching out all the time. But I do, and there's an inkling of me that wants to just like run and like go with that path. But what stops me is just this incredible morale that we have. I know what like rapid growth does to an establishment, to a community, and I think intentional growth is the key. And so that's why we've stayed small. That's why we have been really, really careful about who we bring on. And so that I think that my 80-year-old self would say intentional growth above rapid growth and like quality over quantity.
So good. Steph, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
This is great. Yeah, thank you so much.